Coming up on Midco Motorsports, the World of Outlaws gets its annual Pre-Nationals tune-up at Knoxville Raceway. We've got a full recap. Speaking of the Outlaws, Mark Dobmeier is the winningest driver in River City Speedway history, but he's never conquered the greatest show on dirt in Grand Forks. Will this finally be the year? We'll get his thoughts on that and more in a special edition of Inside Track. All that plus highlights from the Super Show in Mandan and Darren Cordell's pursuit of perfection. The green flag drops down. The Outlaw invasion continues. How's everybody doing? I'm Jay Elson, and this is Midco Motorsports. A week after claiming his first Jackson Nationals title, Brad Sweet looked to keep things rolling in Knoxville as the greatest show on dirt made its annual early summer appearance at Iowa's famed half mile. Sweet would have to wait his turn, however. The Outlaws sharing the speedway with the 305s on this night. Picking up on lap 7 after the first of many yellow flags, Cade Higday starts his charge to the front, moves past Matthew Stelzer for third, then shortly after another caution, Higday sails by Eric Bridger for the runner-up spot. The Mount Pleasant native set his sights on the lead from there, and he'd get it right here. Now Chris Walraven would hang tough until another yellow stopped the action, but it was all 24 from there. Higday pulled away from the field after the restart and went on for his 4th career win at Knoxville. To the main event now, Sweet starting on the pole, and he settles into the top spot right off the start. Great action behind him over the first 15 laps. Brian Brown right in the thick of it, loses third to Shane Stewart here, then gets into a battle with Donnie Schatz. Brown throws the slider, but the 15 answers right back. Brown kept fighting, goes back and forth with Kerry Madsen this time. The 21, though, ultimately settled for 6th. Back to Schatz now, making a run late, grabs third from Stewart, but not quite able to take the silver spot away from David Gravel. Schatz finished third. In the end, though, no one was going to catch Sweet. He goes wire to wire for his 2nd consecutive Outlaws win and the $10,000 payday. The 360 sprints would kick things off on Saturday, and there were some tense moments on lap 8 of the feature. The leaders forced to slam on their brakes for a car that was flipping in front of them. Nate Van Haften actually made contact with the back of Sawyer Phillips. Those guys would continue, but points leader Clint Garner wasn't so lucky. Several crews worked to try and get the 40 car back on the track, but it wasn't to be. Garner done for the night due to a busted front end. On the restart, Van Haften rides the inside line past Phillips for the lead, and he would hold on from there. Van Haften collects his 6th career victory at Knoxville. To the Outlaws now, Sweet back on the pole once again, but this time his lead would be short-lived. Schatz gets by the 49 on lap 2. Sweet eventually fell to 4th, but he'd end up capping his solid weekend with a bronze finish. David Gravel settled for 2nd, but it was a distant 2nd because Donnie Schatz dominated this thing from start to finish. He leads the whole way for his 25th career win at Knoxville, which moves him into a tie for 10th place on the track's all-time wins list. Mark Dobmeier's won a ton at River City Speedway, but it's the victory he doesn't have that would mean the most. We'll get his thoughts on that and more when Midco Motorsports rolls on. In addition to being one of the most popular sprint car drivers in our region, Mark Dobmeier is also the all-time winningest driver at River City Speedway. But there's one victory he's still chasing. Midco SN's Brian Shawn found out a little more about that in this week's Inside Track.
All right, joined now by Mark Dobmeier here in his shop in Grand Forks as we preview the World of Outlaws coming to North Dakota for a pair of races, starting in Grand Forks at River City Speedway and then moving to Red River Valley Speedway for the first time in quite some time. as the Outlaws make their way through the Dakotas after running in Knoxville this past weekend. Mark Dobmeier joining us. And Mark, for you, this is always a special time, I think, when the Outlaws come to town. I know more than anything else, you desperately want a victory on your home turf. You've been close a few times, and it's one of those things now where it's something you get to look forward to.
Absolutely. This the World of Outlaw race in Grand Forks it means absolutely everything to me. This is the one race that I really want to win. I've ran well at in the past, and just haven't been able to get the win there. We beat the Outlaws a few other places in Knoxville and then Sioux Falls, which is kind of my second hometown track, and I actually pulled it off twice down there. But to get it at your actual hometown is number one goal and priority for me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your season. You've been going now for a couple of months, been running all over the place. Just got off a 3-day run at Jackson not that long ago. Just talk about your experience down there. An 8th place finish in the big show on Saturday night.
Yeah, Jackson was a very good weekend for us. I guess it was a nice solid weekend. I wouldn't call it excellent, but it was a good solid weekend for us. We went down there and we qualified well both the first 2 qualifying nights, and raced decent in the heat races, got us in position in the feature. And the first 2 nights of the feature, we just kind of ended up maintaining in the feature. We started kind of midfield and ended up midfield, but our crew was working hard the whole weekend, and we're trying to learn everything we can at every track we go to. And that final night, we tweaked a few extra things, and we found a little speed in that feature. We started 11th and worked our way up to 8th, and I think we had a great car. I think we actually could have finished as high as 5th or 6th. I think at one point we just got racing with a few guys and slowed each other up. So it was a good solid weekend for us.
You know, Mark, I remember when you kind of started in Grand Forks and we're building it up, and then you got to be really consistently good here, and then you started branching out a little bit. And all of a sudden, you turn the page a little bit, and you're really not this kid anymore, not this young kid. You know, you're kind of a veteran now a little bit. Do you kind of feel like you've earned your stripes, so to speak? And I think a lot of different drivers and teams around this region, certainly even around the country, kind of know who Mark Dobmeier is at this point in your career.
I tell you what, it's been definitely kind of a ladder that a guy's climbed up. We started running NOSA series when I was like 99, 2000, right in there, when I was a senior in high school in 99. And we started racing here and basically started winning a few races here and there. And the next step was to go to Sioux Falls, so we started going on to Houston Speedway in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and it didn't seem much longer than about a year or 2 we started winning races there. Well, then the next step after that is Knoxville, and kind of kept running the ladder, but that's we kind of got to about the top of the ladder where we can go, and as far as our area and where we're at, and we've had a lot of success over the years, and it's somewhere the fast forward button went somewhere in my career. I don't know, and now you sit back and they start talking, you've got 200 and some wins and this and that, and I don't know. I just take it one night at a time, and it seems like it's snowballed somewhere along the line.
You know, how has things maybe changed for you from a goal standpoint? I know you got a couple of kids now. I mean, life changes a little bit as you go around. You're probably being a little more selective on where you go, but from a life standpoint, I'm guessing you're approaching this thing a little bit differently as well.
Well, as a goal standpoint is kind of exactly what we talked about earlier. One of my big goals in racing is to win that World of Outlaws show in Grand Forks. But I told myself when I got started, I'm going to take racing as far as I can. And I'm going to keep fun in it. As long as I'm having fun, I'm going to keep doing it. We're still running, you could say 60 to 70 races a year, and we're still having fun, so that's what we're doing. And until something changes, you'll be seeing us here.
You know, for you, I think in how you progress in your career and how things are going on a little bit, how do you feel about the sport overall? Dirt track racing, sprint car racing is evolving. Because I know there's some concerns. You know, there weren't as many cars at Knoxville, weren't as many cars going to this track and this track. Now Badlands Motor Speedway has suspended racing for this summer. You know, how do you look at that from a driver's perspective?
It's been interesting. I've been around long enough where I've seen a lot of ups and downs throughout sprint car racing as a whole. I've seen it grow dramatically, you could say, over the last 5 years. Even in River Cities here, we're up to like almost a 30-car field on every Friday night. You know, racing for the final 24 spots. That puts us with a B main. In the Midwest as a whole, you could see it a few years ago. It was definitely on a peak with Badlands coming in. We had the NSL series that was running all over the Midwest. There's a lot of things going on. I was involved with quite a few of them, and it seems like this year might be a little bit of a slump, a little bit of a downgrade for as number of races that are available. But the quality of cars is still out there, and the number of cars is still out there. I can see it growing dramatically in the future again here shortly.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, Mark, and good luck to you the rest of this season, and really good luck to you in North Dakota, and see if you can come away with that elusive victory coming up for the World of Outlaws.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. That's Mark Dobmeier.
All right, thanks, Brian. Well, as you heard there, Dobmeier has been close, has finished as high as 3rd against the Outlaws on his hometown track, but he'll get another chance to get that monkey off his back this Friday night in Grand Forks. The legendary Bull Ring welcomes the greatest show on dirt, along with those ever-popular NLRA late models. Hot laps are scheduled to start at 6:30 sharp with opening ceremonies to follow about an hour later. Dobmeier also plans to race in Fargo on Saturday as the World of Outlaws return to Red River Valley Speedway for the first time since 2012 for the Duel in the Dakotas. We'll have full recaps of both of those events coming up for you next week on Midco Motorsports. Well, there was plenty of bang for the buck at Dacotah Speedway last week. Greg Ankers will bring us the highlights from the track's first ever Super Show after this. Welcome back. Dacotah Speedway was looking to make a splash, so the powers that be figured one way to do it was to put together a lineup that was bigger and better than any other the track had ever had. Midco SN's Greg Ankers has a recap of this week's A-Feature.
Thanks, Jay. In the 27-year history of the Dacotah Speedway, the Mandan track has never hosted late models and sprints in the same night. But history was made this past Friday when both classes met at an event they call the Super Show. And the evening did not disappoint with 83 cars in the field with support classes from the street stocks and A modifieds. A hot night for racing in this one. We'll start with the street stocks on a restart just one lap in. After starting sixth, Chris Michelson in the 8M makes a move on the outside to get past the 13 of Jason Meidinger. After four more cautions bunch up the field, Michelson stays out front despite some pressure from the 21D of Matt Dosh, as Michelson puts his car back in victory lane for the fourth time this season at Dacotah Speedway. To the A modifieds, a 24-car feature in this one. On lap 3, Jason Walla in the 27W battling with Brent Schlafman for second, and Schlafman gets into the side of Walla in turn 4. Schlafman spins out, bringing out the yellow flag. On the restart, Walla goes to work on the leader, Hank Berry, in the 25 car. Walla gets by him on the outside to take the lead, and he would hang on to that lead for the remaining 21 laps, winning for the first time in Mandan since the season opener back on May the 5th. To the IMCA late models, Hank Berry of Sidney, Montana, running this class as well, leading after starting on the pole with the 11K of Jeremy Keller on his heels, but the red flag comes out here as the 25D of Dylan Barnhart catches on fire. Barnhart would be okay as we go back to the racing. One lap to go. Berry still leading the field, but the caution comes out for Keller, who spins out in turn 4, and that's how this one ends. Berry comes up short in the modifieds, but takes the checkered in the late models.
Yeah, there were some fast cars. I don't know if there was, who was hanging with us, the front three, but the front three, my car was going good, so I know it would have took a pretty good car to get by me.
On to the sprints in an 18-car feature field with 15 laps to go. Pole sitter Kyle Fedek in the 91K running out front, but here comes the 6N of Greg Nikotenko. The two of them get in the thick of lap traffic, though, and Fedek holds on to the lead. That lead would hold until 7 laps to go when lap traffic once again plays a role. This time, though, it's Fedek that gets held up just for a moment, and that allows Nikotenko to make his move on the inside and grab the lead. Nikotenko holds off Fedek in the field as he takes the checkered flag and brings home the Super Show jackpot.
It's our second weekend of racing, our third show overall, so it's nice to get a win early in the season. We kind of had a late start this year, so with that, so far so good. We've ended up second twice in Estevan and Minot the first weekend, and then we ended up winning here tonight.
The second leg of the Dacotah Legends Tour is up next for Dacotah Speedway tomorrow night. That tour then heads to Jamestown on Saturday before wrapping up at Buffalo River Race Park in Glendon on Sunday. Jay, back to you.
All right, sounds good, Greg. Thank you. Well, rain shortened last week's show in Grand Forks, but not before the school buses got their annual run around the track. Find out which driver earned this year's bragging rights next. Bringing school to the races might not seem like the best way to get kids excited about the sport, but that is not at all the case in Grand Forks. The school bus races, which raise money for participating area schools, have become a full-fledged tradition at River City Speedway, with the event annually drawing one of the track's largest crowds of the season. Friday would be no different. A dozen buses of all shapes and colors would take the track this year. In other words, there was plenty of paint to trade. Now remember, these are not just race car drivers. You've got mechanics, speedway workers behind the wheel of these big rigs. There's an art to this whole deal, and this year, the guy that put it all together was RCS official Craig Hauser. He gets the win for East Grand Forks High School. Late model driver Zach Nostad took second. The A-Mods came out next, and the pace increased significantly. A little excitement early on as the 22 of Rick Hamill gets loose around turn 2, and Lance Schill has nowhere to go. Heavy contact there. Both drivers were okay, but they were also done for the night. Fast forward to the final lap now. Pole setter Ward Emery trying to fend off Dustin Strand, and they would stay nose to nose until the very end. Watch this finish. Emery beats Strand to the line by less than 0.2 of a second. That was going to be tough to top, but the late models gave it their best shot, and once again, the action started early. Lap 1, Steve Anderson loses it and broadsides Bill Mooney in turn 4, and the driver of the 2 car not at all happy about it. Mooney voiced that displeasure to Anderson before storming back to the pits. After they got things cleaned up, they do a full restart, and Nostad makes the most of it. He pilots the Z17 past Tom Corcoran for the lead, and he wouldn't look back. After that runner-up finish in the school bus race, Nostad notches his first ever River Cities victory in the late models. The NOSA Sprint feature was rained out at RCS Friday, but no such problem Saturday in Jamestown. Tempers flare just a couple laps in. That after Dusty Lawson and Brendan Wilde get tangled up in turn 3. Words were exchanged, but cooler heads prevailed. Pole setter Jordan Adams getting pressure from Wade Nygaard and Austin Pierce as he tries to work through lap traffic on a rubber-down track. Adams, though, able to dart around Marcus Rothenbacher to get some breathing room. He ends up going on to lead the entire 25-lap feature for his first victory since 2014.
It was a one-groove track. Restarts were really important, and I don't know if I did a good job on them or not, but yeah, you did. That was the main point that I was trying to focus on. Towards the end of the race, I could really feel the tires going away. I was just really praying they were going to hang on the last couple laps.
To the A-Mod feature now, fans treated to a great 3-way battle for the lead. Last year's Jamestown Stock Car Stampede winner Tracy Domagala works around legendary 62-year-old driver Johnny Carell. Domagala then manages to hold off the nightmare Lucas Rodin over the final few laps to pick up the victory.
It was just a mad dash to the bottom of the track, but it was an awesome race, had a lot of fun, and out there racing with a bunch of good guys, not touching, not banging stuff up. It's an awesome race. You know, actually the track was a lot like it was at the Stampede with it being bottom dominant like that, so I felt pretty comfortable out there.
The track would continue to slick off, and that made for a caution-laden B-Mod feature, and it didn't take long to see that first yellow. When they did get to race, it was a 2-car show. Fargo's Joey Rowell had the lead until the midway point, but he gives way to Lisbon's Nate Reinke after a bobble in turn 4. And Reinke, who finished runner-up last week, sees checkers this time.
Joey was a little bit free, and I was able to work past him once, and then it was tough. He gave me just that much, and I took a little every time, and I worked my way by, so I feel real good about it.
2 more Lisbon racers highlighted the Street Stocks main event. Duffy Fremke passed Matthew Lesmeister with 6 laps to go, and Fremke continues his strong start to the season. He gets his first win at Jamestown, but already his 5th overall. No one has been able to catch Darren Cordles this season. Find out if the 11K managed to stay perfect in Rock Rapids after this. Perfection is difficult to attain, let alone sustain. But Darren Cordles is challenging that notion. Cordles came into last week having won all 4 features with the late model Street Stock Touring Series. Friday, he looked to make it 5 straight at his hometown track. To Rapid Speedway we go. The stakes would be raised a bit for the USRA stock cars. Elijah Zevenbergen accepted the back row challenge, which sweetened the pot by a couple $100 if he could get the win. The 66Z looking poised to do just that early on. Zevenbergen charging through the field. Meanwhile, Scott Overgaard settled into the top spot after starting 5th. 5 to go now. Zevenbergen trying to make his move, gets by Rich Gregoire for 2nd, but that would be the last pass he would complete. He'd end up finishing the night in 3rd. None of it had much of an effect on Overgaard. He kept his eye on the prize and gets his first win of the year at Rocky.
I knew I can't mess up much or I'm going to be in trouble, and I just kept waiting to see a nose or something, but I guess I didn't goof up enough, so I made it.
The night's main event featured Cordles in those late model street stocks. Now, like Zevenbergen, Cordles also accepted the back row challenge, and on top of that, one of his buddies offered an extra $100 to anyone who managed to beat him. He'd get to keep that money, though. It took Cordles all of 5 laps to go from worst to first, and once he got there, he built a huge lead. A caution would bring him back to the pack with 5 laps to go, and things did get a little hairy on the restart. 11K gets tangled up with the 31 of Trent Schroeder, sending both guys spinning off the track. No lap was completed, though, so Cordles got to keep the top spot, and he'd make the most of it. Cordles successfully completes the back row challenge, picking up a little extra cash to go along with his 5th straight LMSS win.
Everything was going smooth and just kind of went where they weren't. The car was really good, and yeah, got up through there really good. Other than the yellow where, I don't know, if I got jumbled up down there and I got spun, it probably was more my fault too, but it turned out okay.
Well, we have reached the checkered flag. For Brian, Sean, Greg Ankers, and our producer Max Jensen, I am Jay Elson. Here's a quick look at what's coming up. Enjoy the races, everyone. We'll see you next time.